We're so glad you guys are all here. As you know, putting on an expo like this takes a lot of resources, and we were lucky enough to partner with a local establishment early on who believed in us and believed in what we were going to do, and that is a local bar called Joystick Game Bar.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have been, but it's great. And Brandon is here, one of the proprietors of Joystick Game Bar. He's here. He wants to come down and say a few words before we get started.
All right, microphone. Hey guys, thank you so much. Not going to take up too much of your time. Just wanted to make you guys aware that we're in downtown Atlanta, Joystick Game Bar. So it's a bar. We got full cocktail selection, beer. We've got great food. Illegal food does all of our food. But we were really excited when they approached us because we've got all the classics. We got everything from Centipede to Street Fighter 2 to NBA Jam. We recently had Shaquille O'Neal play our NBA Jam machine. We were pretty psyched about that. But we just wanted to say thank you guys so much for coming out, and everyone who donated to Kickstarter too for you guys. I mean, that's great. We also got a little bit of help on Kickstarter before we opened, so we love that sort of crowdsourced thing. And that's really all. Definitely check us out. So Google, we're very Googleable. Just Joystick Game Bar on Google, tell you all the information you need to know. And quick little Craigslist ad. If anybody here is good at fixing up pinball machines, we're always looking for people to help us out with pinball machines and arcade games. So hit us up. Thank you guys so much again, and enjoy the panel.
Guys, Joystick Game Bar was our first sponsor, and go out there and support them. They did a great job. Brandon mentioned the food that they partnered with for Illegal Foods. I was out there a couple weeks ago. It's the best hamburger I've ever had in my life. I can tell you that. All right, well, let's get on with the show. Does anybody want to see some pinball designers up here?
Yeah.
Well, it is my pleasure to introduce to our panel and to the expo two of the great pinball designers ever. And first up, we have a man who designed Stern's most recent effort, Mustang, a man who designed Congo, a man who designed Bride of Pinball, so many of our favorites. And I want to welcome him, Mr. John Trudeau. All right, John.
I don't want to make it all down all the stairs.
Fantastic. We're glad you're here.
Same here.
Yep.
Same here.
Come on over. We've got a seat for you right here. And that's not all. We also have another legendary pinball designer, and he's a man who designed Pinbot, and of course, Space Shuttle, back in the room, featured at the back of the room. He's in so many more that I couldn't list them all, and it would take the whole panel. So please welcome Mr. Barry Oursler. All right, so the way this is going to work, these two guys and I, we're going to have a little chat up here. I've got some questions for you guys to listen in on, and then we'll take some audience questions.
Does this mean he's on the dark side?
Yeah.
White and black.
Come to the dark side.
All right, I'm going to go under beverage.
All right, so one thing we've been told is these chairs swing back really far, and so you'll have to speak into your mic really good so our audience can hear. So are you guys having a good show so far?
So far,
so good. Yep. Have you walked the floor yet and see what's out there?
Yes.
Played some games.
Yep, done.
Good. Good. Well, I wanted to ask you guys. Let's go back way back. How did you guys first get into pinball as a job? What was your entry job into pinball? And also a secondary question. I'll let you answer that first. So, what was your first entry into pinball? First job, John.
first job was a playfield tester. Actually, it was a finished game tester, but I had to learn how to do it first. It was for a little company in Addison, Illinois called Game Plan. They made a number of cocktail machines and a few uprights too, eventually. But I started on a cocktail machine called Star Trek, I believe it was. And I worked in the factory for about a year. Eventually, I made enough suggestions that the head designer was Ed Sabula, who was around the industry for quite some time, starting from, I can't remember the name of the company, Chicago Point, yeah. And then he went on to Data East also. But he brought me down, he says, how would you like to learn how to lay out pinball machines? And I said, oh, I think I can do that. Let's give it a try. And he brought me in, and I helped him work on Pinball Lizard. And then I did a layout for them that went into their morgue, so to speak, because they decided to get out of making pinball machines. And years later, they came back and I saw Attila the Hun at a show, and I was very surprised. And that's how I got into doing and designing pinballs.
How about you, Mayor?
Me, I started working at Williams. I graduated high school on Sunday and started working in the factory on Monday. And spent about 2.5 years there, and then they offered me a job up in engineering as a technician. I was working on the playfield for Steve Kordak and Norm Clark, assembling boards and wiring them and doing everything else. And sometime around 78, they were getting kind of short on designers. And I had an idea for a game and talked to Steve, and they said, sure, go ahead. See what you can do. And I drew up Phoenix. And then from there on, just did it for another 18 years after that.
Do you guys remember the point, the realization point where you said to yourselves, oh my gosh, I can actually make a living building games, and
Still working on it.
still working on it.
No, go ahead, sorry.
Well, yeah, I mean, do you guys remember that point? I mean, I'm building these things for people to play with, and I'm going to build a career out of it.
You first.
I know, I think when they started giving us royalties on the games, I think that kind of ticked it off a little bit.
Right.
Because for a while, we were just getting a regular paycheck and they give you a little bonus at Christmas time, but then I think it's after Steve Ritchie had started there, he started making them change things, and it changed things for everybody.
That's when it was Williams, right? My history went in a different path. I went to Gottlieb, and I worked there for many years. My first production game there was Rocky, and then I did Spirit right after that. I'm trying to remember. I don't believe we had royalties there either, but I was making a living wage at that point. And because I liked doing what I did, the fact when Game Plan decided not to make any pinballs anymore, I could have stayed there with a job. I opted to try another company.
Right. So at what point did you two first meet?
That was at Premiere, wasn't it?
So, probably one of the shows.
Possibly one of the shows, one of the trade shows, because everybody went, it's a very tight industry. Yeah.
Right. And do you guys remember any first impressions or stories from the first time you met?
Not much until we started working together, I think.
Yeah. Then it was, where are we going for lunch today?
Yeah. Now, you guys were telling me in the car ride to the airport how much fun.
Oh, it was a lot.
Yeah.
It was terrible. It was a slave game. No, it wasn't. We affectionately referred to it as the country club. And it was just that way, and couldn't think of a better place to be at that time.
So you got these different companies that are out there building these games back in the day. And if a rival company had a huge hit, did you guys get pressure from management? Did they nudge you in a certain direction to do something similar on the next game you designed, or was it just, oh, whatever you guys want to do, John, Barry?
I don't know. I'm sure there were suggestions made, but there was no heavy hand involved.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was there peeking around the corner to see what the other companies did?
Oh, sure.
We always brought a game in.
We brought game, as soon as that game hit the street, we had a sample sitting in our engineering department.
Oh, really?
playfield was up, we were looking at it, tearing it apart.
They did the same thing to us.
Sure.
Right.
It was mutual respect is what it was.
Right.
Yeah. Everybody wanted to stay on the cutting edge. And, Gottlieb turned out some tremendous numbers, Williams turned out tremendous numbers, and Valley was turning out a lot of numbers too.
Right. And so Barry, you were at Williams your whole career.
Yes, 26 years.
Wow.
I still would have been there if they didn't lay us off.
This is true.
And John, I know you mentioned earlier, but you've got Williams, Gottlieb, Game Plan.
And in between there, Gottlieb was purchased, well, it had been purchased by Columbia Pictures. Then Columbia was bought by Coca-Cola, and Coca-Cola came in, and here comes the heavy hand. Oh, we do things our way, the Coca-Cola way, and we're not going to, make pinball machines as long as we have to. So all the innovation and everything went down the drain right at that point. And we started making old games, remaking old games. Ed Krinsky was still there, and he pulled out everything he had from the wall. We did Royal Flush Deluxe, Orbit, Super Orbit. You know, it was just on and on and on. And the game sold. There was a market, especially overseas. They just ate everything up we did. I managed to squeeze a couple of originals in there, Alien Star, and that was in the days where we couldn't spend any money. The games I did, and we did what we could. But that was tough when it was Milestar. They had the infinite wisdom to rename Gottlieb Milestar. And of course, Ed Krinsky, bless his soul, came right up during an announcing meeting in the middle of the engineering staff and the office staff and all the big wigs. He says, you know, anybody research this? Milestar backwards spells rat slime. Only he could have got away with that. Needless to say, our reaction was the same. But, you know, pretty much had a lot of, I wouldn't say contempt, but there was no love lost between the new management.
Right.
And the pinball people. So in spite of what we did, they kept us on because we kept the factory running. They couldn't make a video game to save their lives.
All right, well, so changing the subject here, if you look around this room at the folks who are here, including myself, I think there's a certain fascination in how the process of game design worked and also works today. We'll get to that. But how much involvement in the decisions about music, sound effects, and speech, sort of those ancillary traits of your game, how much involvement did you guys have in those decisions? Was it complete control, or?
I mean, to a certain point, I mean, a lot of times we'd give maybe an idea of what we wanted, or we let the sound guy come up with a song, and then we either approve it or disapprove it, or make changes on it. I mean, it's not like we're dictators.
That's pretty much
Yeah.
true. Unless you had a vision.
Right.
I had a vision with Creature from the Black Lagoon, and that was pretty much the dictators. I wanted old-fashioned rock and roll music, and then we had to go out and hunt licenses down. A couple of them didn't make it in there; they wanted an exorbitant amount of money for their customers. But when we got in there, it was fine, and the direction went good.
Well, so I'm glad you brought up Creature and the licensing. How did the process of working with the licensing differ than that of working with an original theme? And which did you guys prefer? Barry, we'll start with you.
Well, it was easier when it wasn't a license, because then you didn't really have to answer to anybody else. Like when we did Dracula, we had to get approval from Columbia Pictures for whatever they were doing with it. You know, stuff along that line. When you had your own theme, you could do whatever you wanted to do. You only had to worry about management.
Now, and did you guys, John, you can answer in just a second, but I want to follow up there. Did you get to pick the license you wanted to go for? Or was there a lot to pick from? Did you go
Something like on Dirty Harry and Doctor Who, we picked the license. Dracula kind of fell into our laps because it was supposed to be aliens, but the very alien movie, but they delayed the movie, had to reshoot it. So they hit us with Dracula, asked us to use that, so management kind of pushed it. Which turned out to be good though.
Yeah, great.
Okay, what was the first question?
It's okay. So how did the process of working with a licensed team differ from working with an original?
What Barry said is pretty much right down the line. You don't have the worries with art approval, music approval, nothing when you're doing stuff on your own. However, sometimes there was a license that lent itself to what you wanted to do. And if it was something that you picked, it was probably for a good reason, because you had to sell it to management first. And when, like, bringing up Creature again, it was like, you want a 1953 black and white movie? I said, yeah, look. And then I had to explain the 3D vision that I had. And he said, okay, do something, show me it then. They ran with it.
They loved it, huh?
You know, the hologram, we never expected to deteriorate over the years. But that's something we found out that's what happens, I guess. There was nothing in their manufacturing, just the shelf life on it was variable.
Right,
Yeah.
right. All right, so back to this whole culture thing of being a game designer and back in the day. So after hearing the story of Steve Ritchie being chased by the California Highway Patrol in his expensive European sports car, and how that inspired high speed, I have this mental image of pinball designers back in the day were living like rock stars. Was it all parties and sports cars for you guys? I mean, give us the truth here.
I don't know about the sports cars part.
Parties.
We did have some parties, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Steve's a California kid. What do you know? Land of fruit and nuts, so. He'll love me for that. We still pick on each other to this day.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, so back, I once heard the artist Sting, the singer-songwriter Sting. He once said he realized he had made it when he was laying in a hospital bed and he heard the orderly walking down the hall whistling the tune to "Walking on the Moon." I thought that was an interesting story, and I was wondering about you guys. When did you first have that sensation that you're pinball fans?
You first.
Well, a lot of times I think people were like looking for games like from a certain designer. They want the next Barry Oursler game, the next Steve Ritchie game, or next Pat Lawler game. And they'd be looking for them. And some of these other designers were a little unscrupulous, and they'd be calling up the distributors telling them, don't buy that game. My game's coming out in a couple of months. So you knew something was going on.
But was there some point, Barry, maybe you don't even realize this yet, that you are pinball famous, you are well known. At what point did you sort of realize, hey, people want me to sign their plate deals, their back glasses and all that? Did it hit you to go, oh my gosh?
Probably we started the pinball expos.
Okay.
They want you to come in for autograph sessions to start signing things.
Could you believe it?
I still can't.
You still can.
I have a job now. Fortunately, I got drawn back into designing. It's not like it used to be, but it's better than not doing it. And it's hard to believe it, what it's all involved. I guess when I got invited to go to England, they were going to pick up nuts on that. Yeah, that's a long way to go. He's going this year too. So.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
What do y'all want to live for?
Show.
Yes, show.
Yeah, show.
All right.
Sit here and answer questions. Only over there.
I'm glad I could copy this here. So they're probably gonna do it. All right, so what comment or feedback from your peers has meant the most to you over your career? Can you remember, think of something from your peers?
You first again. I have to think on that.
I know, I'm trying to think too.
I think Steve Ritchie, when I was working at Premier, he called me on the telephone to tell me how much he liked Hollywood People. So that was,
Really?
yeah.
And that's one of your personal favorites. isn't
Yeah,
it?
from the Premier Group, yeah, that is. That one turned out real nice. Lots of fun to play.
Yeah.
Although now the music's a little dated.
agree.
I think so, I
Right?
think so.
That's why it's so good.
But the flow of the game is still there.
Barry, you have anything to add on
I
that?
can't think too much, I mean, I got compliments from like Steve Ritchie and John Hocker, you know, on games and stuff, but nothing that really stands out.
Well, so you guys both had your breaks, that you took from pinball, and John, you're obviously back into it. What is your perception of the evolution of pinball, while you guys were out?
I don't think it went much of anywhere, to be honest with you. I think it was just a matter of, personally, I see it as just surviving. The innovation was, I think, kept pretty much to a minimum. Let's, we use something, shuffle it around a little bit. It was a tough road to hoe, as far as I can see. And they tried, they did the Pinball 2000 effort, which, it's a nice piece. But it's not a classic pinball machine. I would have liked to see that produced alongside of the standard pinball machine. And we went through something very smaller than that back at Premier when he brought out the street level games, and I did Silver Slugger for them. And the deal was that I thought that we were going to do the street level games and games with ramps and bells and whistles, But then they decided, well, we're just going to do the simple games again. That's when I left.
Not done, huh?
Yeah, well, I let the contract run out.
Right.
And I went and saw Steve Kordick. and Kenny Fidesma, he was vice president. And I had lunch with him. He says, come work for us if you want. Yep.
I'll do it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I did.
Barry, any thoughts on the evolution of pinball?
I pretty kept up with that much over the last, so many years. I've been out of it for quite a while. I mean, I worked for a distributor for about 8, 9 years before the job I've got now, but even then I've gone for like 7 years from that. I mean, I haven't really seen that much of a difference, really, just new licenses in the games.
Right.
I agree with Barry on a lot of that too, because when I was out of it, I wasn't that aware of it either. Although I tried to keep my fingers in the design end of it, and worked up with a group of fans in the UK, and just did anything I wanted to do. I did a commercial for Fox Sports for the 2005 Major League Baseball All-Star game, which turned out real nice. They actually wanted a playfield design, and they animated all the players coming up on the game. That was their TV spot. But other than that, I would say, yeah, I wasn't aware of what was going on until I got back into it. And a lot of my hindsight now is within the last year.
Sure. And, by virtue of the fact that we're all here, and you guys are going to England for another show, shows popping up all over the country, what do you guys, are you surprised about the resurgence of pinball in an age where there's so many competing forms of entertainment?
A little bit, but I'm glad it did, though.
We have a new generation now, and that's what it took. Yeah, it was, they have the video generation, which is still there. People are still enjoying their video games, but they're rediscovering pinball machines. In Chicago, they have leagues now going from bar to bar to bar, competing with each other.
Yeah.
And these barcades, which I guess is a patented name now in New York, but what they have a good dozen pinball machines in the bar, and that's what they're there for, competition. And you can go pay to play with them, but when it's competition night, the league is playing.
It's like record albums coming back too, same type of thing.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Record albums, how they're all starting to come back.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, vinyl, yeah.
Yeah.
Vinyl.
Everything old is good again.
It's new again.
Yeah. Yeah, well, after working in pinball all day, day in and day out for so long, did you guys still have a desire to have a personal collection of games?
When I was in it, I had 6 in the basement. And I just decided that was a nice number because it fit in the spot that I had designed for pinball machines. And I rotated.
Okay.
Yeah. Something got tired, sell one. Sometimes I pick up an old one. Like I had a Hollywood Heat there when I was at Williams.
mean, not anymore, but I had 12 games in my basement one time.
Oh, wow.
That was back when I was still working at Williams.
I should do the caveat also, that's me too.
The last game I
I
had
don't
was
have any now.
Dr. Rudolph. That was Dr. Who's the last game I had.
Oh,
I sold that a couple years ago.
Yep. So you don't have any now?
Not right now, no.
Mine are all gone too.
That's sad, actually.
Every
home needs a pinball
They're
machine.
getting used.
Yeah.
And it's funny, you know, as much as I like playing them, I like designing them more. And that's always been my love, is to do the layout and design. When I was done with the game, this is the way I looked at it, I was done with the game. Let's get something new on the board now. And my games at home, I play them once in a while, but they were coat racks.
Really?
Yeah.
So you have big arcade parties, like?
Oh, no, parties, yeah, parties they were great at. They were great at parties, but they did collect a lot of dust in between the parties.
Right. Well, follow-up question on that, if you could, so we're gonna play the what if game. Out of the games that you've designed, if you could keep one and only one, which would that be?
It's very hard.
I know.
Whoever thinks of the first can answer first.
Probably Cyclone.
Got some Cyclone fans in here?
I'd have to go with the creature.
Oh, yeah.
That I never knew what that game's gonna do to me next.
Gary Sherman said you've been your last game.
I'm sorry, Gary.
Gary Sherman said your last game, last night.
Oh, he liked that one.
Oh.
Well, he always said, what's your
Oh, the
favorite
latest game, sure.
Yeah, last game.
Well, we talked about a little bit about your games, and I know, I'm sure some of the audience is going to have some questions here in a second, but, so we talked about your games, but tell us a little bit about yourself, and now, what takes up most of your time as far as, your job, obviously we know your job, and your hobbies, your family, and stuff like that. Tell us about the inside scoop of Barry and John. Kids, grandkids.
Great grandkids.
Great grandkids.
I got 3.
All right, you go first.
All right, I got 3 great grandsons.
All right.
5, 3, and not quite a year yet. From 3 granddaughters, and from 1 son, prolific little and
Fertile bunch.
yeah, I guess so. What keeps me busy is my music. I play guitar, I sing, and we'll be at the Pinball Expo this year at the inaugural dinner there. So our group is playing the Stone Daddies.
All right, the Stone Daddies.
Yeah, we got a YouTube video if you want to go.
So, yeah, so music is.
Music, yeah, I love playing. I love singing. We're just a cover band, but we're all well past thinking that we're gonna be great someday. 2 of us should be retired already, the other 3 are real close. So, a bunch of old guys having fun, is what it is.
Barry, what about you?
When I'm not working, I spend a lot of time with the family. I mean, I got 2 kids and 4 grandkids. My daughter's got 2 teenagers, and my son's got 2 little ones. So we're always doing something, either a party or a dinner, or taking a trip together, doing something.
Fantastic.
I do movies and music. I'm into a lot. I don't really play anything, but I listen to it.
Right.
That's good too.
So looking back in a world without pinball, and after this, I'm going to pause right here. After this question, we will take questions from the audience right here at this mic. So if you guys want to think of your questions and line up. But looking back in a world without pinball, what job do you think you would have had if you weren't a pinball designer?
That's tough. I left the printing industry just to get out of it. It was way too much work for what I was getting paid. And that's when I went and took a job with a huge salary cut over at Gameplay. What I would be doing other than that, I don't know, possibly designing something. I held my own with the software package Maybe I would have been a musician, I don't know. Hard to say, you know, the world of pinball, because for me, it was just like being in the right place many times. It wasn't just once, like I just fell into it sometimes, it was amazing. I guess it was meant to be.
That's great.
Yeah.
What do you think, Barry?
Because pinball was really like the first big job I had after high school. Before that, I was making pizzas. That was all I knew for, half my life.
Yeah, it's hard to say what you
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to find anything else that's even close.
Yeah, so did you just apply, out of high school, you just wouldn't apply to Williams?
But my father was working in the quality control department, and he said they had some openings in the factory, so I went and filled my application and had a job there.
And the rest is history. All right. So, any of you guys want to ask any questions? From the mic here, it's gonna be wide open now. So polite.
He's trying to get you all up there. Watch the
I
stare.
would ask you to use, speak into the microphone so we can hear you really good. Thanks, Whitney.
Hello, good afternoon.
Hi.
I'm Katie, I'm from Arizona.
Very good.
My hobbies include bicycling, long walks from the beach. No.
We got lots of beach down here.
Yeah, sand.
Sand.
First of all, John, I wanted to thank you for a couple of things. Obviously, preacher, Judge Dredd, Chicago Cubs triple play. Thank you for giving us a way to have the Cubs win and score multiple runs in a game.
That was the year they won their division.
Yeah. That was a good year.
Yeah.
Of course, Barry, I gotta tell you, I can't name them all here. Cyclone, number one on my list, if I could ever own one. Had $1, my dad used to give me $1, Daytona Beach, every year we used to go all summer. I'd get $1 every day, half of it went to Cyclone, half of it went to Paperboy. And then, they brought in Time Machine from Dayton East, and you lost a quarter every night. So.
New games that do that.
Yeah, so it's a really good game. So a couple of questions real quick. I noticed that Joust was made in '83, and then Caribbean Cruise came out in '89. Was there any influence from Joust when you made Caribbean Cruise?
No,
Not at all.
Not at all. If you look at that Caribbean Cruise, actually Night Moves came out before that one.
Right.
It's almost a clone of the game plan game.
Okay.
We were approached by an outside concern, International Concepts, I believe the name it was, to make something for them. They had an idea how to sell franchises, and they wanted us to create a special product for them. And I said, well, let's do cocktail pinball. And I got thrown into that, and that's where that came from. I was surprised I got to do a second one. I thought it was just gonna be one and done. But they said, no, we want another machine. Great.
Yeah.
Now I'm gonna put multi-ball in this one for
I got to play it for the first time at a tournament this year, and I've never heard this much cussing.
Thank you.
Real quick, second question. I noticed that Barry got to do Pinbot and Jackpot, but then John got to do Bride. Was it like, Barry was the man and you stole the wife and he got to run the honeymoon?
Yeah. Great question.
Bride was Python's baby initially.
Right.
And he was having trouble finishing the layout. And that was my first project at Williams, to save the Bride, literally. And Barry, we were doing something else at that time, I'm not sure what. He was into another project totally.
Right.
And so I said, yeah, okay, give me what he got. And what Python had was the rotating head. And it's a great idea, it was a lot of fun to shoot for. And so I finished up the game around it. And it came out pretty good.
Yes. One last question. Obviously Stern's a big dog, and we've seen Jersey Jack put out, one machine, we're hearing now that there's gonna be a second one. Is there room for more competition that we're not seeing? I mean, would you like to see a resurgence, not just the amount of machines that are coming out, but the competition?
Oh,
And
yes.
how can we get on board with, talking Williams getting back up, or somebody,
You
anybody,
won't
just to get.
Williams back in the
Right.
game. No. You won't get Godley back in the game either. It's something almost like what we would say a young man's game. Manufacturing in the United States is unique, let's say, and has to be something given up to get this product out the door.
So you would say a lot of that would be cost of manufacturing in the US would be, it's a shame, yeah.
That's why I started putting out 3 different models now. They would love to make money on the Pro model, but I don't even know if they break even sometimes. And, but they want to make something just about everybody can buy. And then they throw all the bells and whistles on the other 2, the premium and the LE. I'm not sure I agree with that philosophy, but that's the way they're doing business, and it seems to be working. Everybody's taking a paycheck.
And we're almost seeing that happen with the Wizard of Oz, where they just released it, now they're doing like the anniversary.
Edition.
Right.
Yeah,
so
right. They
they're
seem
just
that,
following.
they saw probably that it worked for Stern, so why not do it? And I don't blame them. I'd love to see another 2 or 3 companies come out. I mean, really come out, and not the boutique so much, although there is a space for that. But I'd like to see somebody really start a manufacturing thing up again.
So it sounds like we got a new Kickstarter campaign or 2 to follow
Right.
this. Gentlemen, thank you for your time.
Oh, you're welcome.
Great questions, thank you.
Hey guys, thanks so much for coming.
Hi.
I have to apologize to Barry because I know that this question is a little bit focused to John, but I'll take advantage of it. So I have a creature from the Black Lagoon and I love it, so thank you very much for designing it. I actually think it's the full package. It's got great art. The playfield looks fantastic. The gameplay is great. I actually prefer it because although some people might criticize this, it is a little bit on the simpler side, but I can just play it over and over and over, and I think it's great. So what I wanted to ask you is since I think it's such a, just like the total package machine, was there any aspect of it that was just really challenging for you to get right? That was just, it just wasn't, you felt that it wasn't right, and you kept tweaking it, and then you got it, or did it just come together from the beginning?
The actual incorporation of the 3D element in the game, probably. We started out with a game that I sat and cut up 3D comic books and put up all over the playfield. And I sat there and put the glasses on and I played the game that way. And it was a thought in the beginning to maybe even just dispense the glasses. And you have the artwork in anaglyph 3D. I mean, we tried it. Where's that wall at? It's there somewhere. It's the only thing that wasn't 3D probably. But yeah, we tried different things, and then we settled on the hologram, and then we found out how much it was, and went, ooh. And I talked to the guys, and they said, okay, let's go do it. And that was the big investment. A lot of money. We had to create a model. Everything in holograms is life size. You can't reduce it or enlarge it. So I have a feature mounted Modier big in my closet at home. And it's one of the first 2. The first one I gave back to the artist that did the statue. He's passed away. I don't know what happened to the statue. But yeah, it was the 3D element and how to get it incorporated. I knew I wanted to do something with that in the game. The game being a drive-in was always there. Yeah, I thought we're going to surround the drive-in with the movie and everyone's experience going to drive-ins. Well, for guys, it's been very pleasurable.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks for the question.
time, the money, or the licensing you needed, you had the opportunity to revisit a game you had redesigned it. Is there a game that you were kind of, either you thought you could do more, or you weren't happy with how it turned out, and would like to be able to have that chance to design it again?
Not that I can think of, I mean, it seems like, you know, whatever I wanted to do on a game, I seem to have gotten what I wanted on it. So I can't think of anything I want to redo.
I'd probably like to spend a lot more time on the games I did at Premier. I was the only show in town at that point over there for many years, and we had a factory to preoccupy, so I unfortunately didn't spend as much time on them as I would have liked to. So, pick one.
Cool. Thanks, man.
You're welcome.
Hi guys, thanks for coming. I brought a couple of my favorite games to the show, Dirty Harry and Comic. And these games over the decade and a half that I've been collecting, initially they didn't get a lot of love, and I think the reason was the theme, the license. And they're getting a lot of love right now. I think it's because everybody knows what a great flow it is. So my question is, did you ever get a license that you looked at and you said, you want me to make this? You put it on the sheet, or did it always come pretty naturally to take any license and turn it into a game?
I only did a handful of licensed games, and we didn't seem to have any problem getting them. Like I said, the only one that was thrown at us really was the Dracula one, because the Alien game, you know, so had to be delayed. So we basically took the playthrough and then relayed out the lights and the rules on it, and turned it into Dracula. But Dirty Harry, Doctor Who, and the other ones, we went after the license, and didn't have a problem getting it.
Most of the licensors were pretty enthusiastic about getting their name on the pinball machine. The one that got tossed to me was Congo. Everybody was kind of like, I don't want to do Congo. You know, pass it down to the next guy. And he goes, I don't want to do Congo. Pass it down. So, but I think it was the second or third time he came around, and he says, come on, we got somebody to do it. John, you're up next. You get Congo. So I think we did a pretty good job.
Yeah, you did a great
It
job.
came out okay. So the little story on the gorilla, the same fellow that did the creature artwork sculpt, did the gorilla sculpt. And Stan Winston was in charge of all the special effects on that movie. And we would send the pictures. And he's going, yeah, it's not bad, it's just not right. Why don't you send it to me? So the artist sent the whole, what they call an armature, the whole thing out to him. He resculpted the whole thing from great. And he sent it back, and it was like, wow, that's a great gorilla. So he wanted it to look like his product. He really, really did. He was a very dedicated individual. Nice guy. Didn't get a chance to meet him. We spent some time in Hollywood on the set of that. And those hippos don't come out of the river; they're coming out of the parking lot. The whole mystique has been blown up on me on that one.
Well, we really enjoyed the game, and
Oh, good.
I think there was a recent thread on Inside where we all decided to keep it. So
Thanks.
And you're great too. So
If you're gonna throw them out, I'll take one. I can put one back in the house.
Hey guys, thanks for coming, both of you. I've been collecting games for about 20 years. I'm just starting to get out of the hobby. But I'm keeping 4 games. One is Trudeau Pinball, and the other one is Doctor Who. So there's the two of the 4 games. So thank you both, because they're 2 of my favorite games of all times. Barry, my question for you is, I've talked to Bill Futzenberg before, but I never asked him this question. I should have asked him. How much of Doctor Who was yours, and how much of it was his? I mean, I know he was really big on the theme. That was his theme. He went after it, right?
Right, we're both big fans of the show, and
Oh, yeah.
Bill tried laying out his own playfield design, and he just couldn't get it to work right, so I told him, let me take it over, and I basically took it over and relayed out the whole playfield.
Did you? Okay.
Then Bill had a lot of input with the rules and everything.
Rules that, yeah. 'Cause I know he was a big programmer for a long time.
Right.
He did some other programs in the past and things like that, and a lot of electronics and things like that. And the thing, I sort of heard the answer already, John, for the bride with Python. Python's been in my house before, so we've had, and I've been to his, so we've had some conversations. as you can probably get. So you said that basically he had the head design, that was kind of his big thing?
Yeah, he was working with a mechanical guy, trying to get the head working. And we just needed to finish everything else up on the game.
And do you feel that the rule set is the weakest part of that whole game? Because it's kind of a one-shot game?
So, it's what he wanted to do. I helped him out on the layout of the board, and I let him, kind of steer the rules in the way he wanted to. It was his concept, his idea, and I didn't want to step on it too much.
Kind of one follow-up question. Jackpot came out right after Python was gone. What kind of decision was that at Williams? Was that a big problem at Williams at the time when it happened?
It was more of a management thing. They needed a game right away.
Right. Yeah.
So they just took an existing layout and just changed the rules on it and changed the artwork.
Yeah, Python kind of made us promise we never buy one.
Oh, really?
But thanks, guys. I really appreciate your work and the things you've done, and I really enjoyed your games.
Great, thank you.
Fantastic. Now, I'm curious, Barry, the Dirty Harry theme, that was made at a time when Dirty Harry the movies had come out and it was kind of an older theme. What was the thought process for looking back into that old movie and doing it again?
I wasn't a Clint Eastwood fan. I always liked all the old Dirty Harry movies. So like John did with Preacher, to bring something old that you like, something personal. And you just had to talk to management into doing the thing. Was
that tough?
Well, it wasn't that hard, really.
It depends.
Right.
On the mood they were into. I could never get the Beatles fast.
And Clint Eastwood recorded special call-outs.
Right, we had one of our sound guys went down when he was shooting bridges in Madison County and he did some custom speech for us.
It was close, he's in Iowa.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, I don't see any other questions from the audience. So I am going to let you guys go with one last question. Just so the audience knows, these guys will have individual panels tomorrow where it's just one-on-one. And so you may hear some of the same material, but there'll be a lot of people here at the show tomorrow that aren't here today. I want to ask you guys, what is next for John Trudeau and Barry Oursler? In anything. It doesn't have to be pinball.
Vacation.
Very good. I'm working on the next theme.
All right.
Not zombies.
Enough said. All right. Well,
I didn't pick it.
not your choice, huh?
Not my choice.
Okay. Well, we can't wait to see it. I can tell you.
Me too.
All right, so I am going to escort John and Barry down to the signing area. And if you guys have follow-up questions or if you need something signed, please come down there and line up and you can talk with them a little more. They'll be there for 30 minutes. So right now, let's give these guys a big hand if you can.